All right, so here we are with lecture 10, 11, and 12, and this one is a lot, and I'm kind of running out of time, so I can't really dive. I tried to watch the whole thing, but I'm running out of time. So, but towards the end, I did watch like the last portion of it because you were talking a lot. A lot of this is right down my alley, right? And you know I I appreciate the sympathy that you have for people being under supervision and being violated for whatever reason. But I met a lot of people, obviously, being in prison for 20 years, you're going to see a lot of people that were in that got out. You're completely jealous and just, you're just like, oh God, I wish it was me, right? But, and it's always like, yeah, the whole system, here's the perspective of most inmates is they have there's the common thought process in prison is the system is designed to try to get you. It's kind of like what you're talking about, really. It sounds a lot very similar, but a little more conspiratorial. So it's like the whole system is set up just to get you into prison and to keep you in prison because they make money off you. Somehow money just falls from the sky like manna. I get it. The federal government gets money, gives money to the state or whatever, but it's not a good, obviously, locking up. I mean, think about it. If you got to half the population, could you really afford 150 million people in prison? The other half would be paying for their incarceration, right? So obviously, the money it's no, it doesn't work out. So I've been on probation for a year as of tomorrow, and I have fucking cussed my CCO out. My freaking housemates were shocked as all hell. The other CCO that was there was shocked. They show up to your house. They got a fucking bulletproof vest on. They got a gun. They got all this shit on like a fucking SWAT member or something. And it's very intimidating, very scary, obviously being fresh out. But he was making all these demands on me and requirements and stuff. And I started to get to the point where I for sure, of course, did not want to go back. But I also was starting to collapse under the pressure of, and this pressure was a lot. And it wasn't designed, it's like you said, it's not designed to get me back in. It's designed to make sure that the public is safe and that you're going to make better decisions and you're going to be a better citizen, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you expect that. I explained that to him anyway. So he ended up walking it back months later. He never apologized, but I yelled at him. We'd cuss at each other all the time, but people thought it was just so stressed. Some people were like, dude, you are an idiot, man. How can you freaking yell at your CCO? I'm like, if you're fucking right, you're right, man. And if I end up getting handcuffed because what I'm saying, which is right, is something, then that does sound very, you know, big brother, like what's the word, you know, controlling, and yeah, that's no good, obviously. But when he came to the house, he was looking for. I was upstairs working on shit that he was demanding that I do, and I'd been working on this stuff since the crack of dawn. I was like 5:30. I started on this stuff, and here this guy comes in at what 9 or somewhere, and he's looking for me. And somebody comes upstairs to let me know he's there. I come downstairs and he sees me, and I start laying into him about these demands that he's putting on me, and he just kind of just walks right by me and goes out the door. And so I follow him out the door, and the other CCO is just like in a daze, just kind of deer in headlights look like, what's going on? What kind of rapport is this? And then I start, pleading my case with him, you know, it's just too much to deal with, between, the end of discrimination. We're going to cover that in just a second. I'm trying to get a job. There's like a million things you got to do. I spent 20 years in prison, man. There was a lot I needed to do. So, and then there's him, like almost like hobbling me is what it felt like. So I follow him outside, and I'm like, and I'm going through the list, and I'm pleading my case with, how unfairly he's treating me. He's coming down on me too much and not helping me. It's almost like he's trying to, like it's not a conspiracy though. I'm not saying that they were trying to get me back in and all that bullshit. That's not a thing. And I think that when I finish here, you'll understand it even more clearly. So he's like, half jokingly, because, he's trying to lighten the mood or something. He's like half jokingly, well, if you don't take care of those things, and he's pointing at the back seat of the car that he was driving. And he's like, you're going to find yourself back there. And that did not go over well with me. And that's when I really fucking lost it. I was fucking screaming at this point. I had my hands in the air. I'm like, this ain't the fucking dream, dude. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That shit don't scare me no more, man. I'm like, being out here and paying for all this shit that I got to pay for or whatever, I'm basically paying for my freedom. And then I got to have you ride me all day long. I'm fucking working 18-hour days and shit. And before, it's a long story, but I freaked out on him and just cussed him out and everything. And he's an ex-military guy. And I wrote what had happened. I know I bounce everywhere. I've been watching my videos. They're hard to watch, man. I bounce all over the place. I don't know what's going on with my brain. Maybe it's the drugs. It's the drugs. So, the prescription. Anyway, so before I got out of prison, I wrote to him, and because I wanted him to read something for me, not just something that was written about me. So, and my counselor had been a counselor for about a decade, and he'd never even heard of that request, which was odd to me. So, and my CCO, my probation officer, the same way. He's like, I got this letter from you. Well, he divulged to me months later, because I go into his office and we became like friends, really, eventually, because he appreciated my open candor, just straightforward, no bullshit talk, real honest and open, and just spit it out, because I'm not going to lie to the guy. So, but yeah, he told me months later. He's like, you wrote me that letter, and you said all those things that I hear all the time. I'm gonna this. I'm gonna become a CEO, and I'm gonna be rich. And he's like, I know you didn't say those specific things, but you had all these high aspirations or whatever, And he's like, but he said, but you did that shit. And he's like, wait, I skipped a part. I got a little emotional, so I skipped a part. But he said, I hear this shit all the time, and I've been doing this a long time, over a decade. And he's like, and I've seen, I've heard this story over and over and over, and fucking people always 6 months later they're smoking crack and they're back in jail. And he's like, so it just for someone in my position, he said, it's like everything you said was like a trigger to kind of just set that off. So it just kind of set the mood for that. And I didn't know that. I just thought he would want to hear that. That I really want to better myself and live the life I should have always been living. But for them, it was like, oh shit, another one of these. And he said, but he told me, he said, but you fucking did that shit. And that's the way he said it too. He's like, but you did all of it, and then some. And yeah, I don't know why I'm getting fucking emotional, but anyway. So we ended up becoming. And I told him that too. One of the last conversations I had with him. Um, I was joking with him, and I was like, "Man, under different circumstances, if things were completely different, we would be good friends." And he literally, without missing a beat, he's like, "Yeah, other than the fact you smoke pot all day," and I fucking lost it, man. I was laughing so hard. This dude knows me so well. Obviously, I've never failed a piss test, but it's like, but I did tell him though when I first met him, I was like, I'm off probation next year, or 2024. And I said, if you don't think for 1 second I'm going to be smoking a fat joint and freaking having a nice cold Heineken, you do not know me. And he's like, you can't be telling me this shit, man. I was like, I'm just being honest, man. I said, because I took the AA class, I took the chemical dependency class in prison and everything. I've never been a drug addict. I've never been an alcoholic, and but I enjoy the simple things in life. I've abused every fucking drug, just about. I've never put a needle in my arm, but the weed and beer, there's nothing wrong with that shit. So I just let him know, I'm going to be doing that shit again. And I think the more he started to listen to me, the more he saw from me, because I took everything very seriously when I got out, and I still do, man. And everything's been a continuous, just, it's all about growth, man. It's all about growth and just becoming better, right? So, the voting rights, I've already discovered or discussed this. I don't think that fucking a lot of people should vote. I've met so many people in prison, man, that are just they're so stupid, and the opinions that they have about things are so far off. People either believe conspiracies or they think that, the other party, because there's only, for some reason, only two damn parties in this country. The other party is just out to ruin the country or something. They have these weird, but they're so uninterested. People are so motivated to voice their opinion about things they know nothing about or very little about. And it's like, maybe you should start, maybe the weight of what you're going to say should be backed with information that you've learned before you form your opinion, not form your opinion and then just try to find something that helps support that opinion. That is obviously not the way to go about things. Um, so that's going to be 10, 11, and 12, man. I know that wasn't a very good one, but I got a little sidetracked with my emotions. I don't know why, but I got to get this stuff done though.